Hi, everyone. Welcome to this social enterprise workshop series. We're so honored today to have the executive director of the Pond-Deshpande Centre joining us to talk about marketing your social enterprise. And she did a working session on this topic with the folks that are participating in our social enterprise deep dive, the Traction and Growth program last week. So looking forward to this topic. I think it's something that's very important, and I know something that many of you are considering. And so to introduce Katie, she is a public policy entrepreneur working at the intersection of our biggest social and economic challenges. She uses creative and innovative solutions to improve or solve existing policy, program, and system challenges, specifically those challenges that create inequalities and impact the most vulnerable people in our world. Her goal is to redesign our systems to create a more inclusive future for all. She is a public policy, my apologies, I just read that part. In her most recent role, Katie served as the Director of Policy and PPF Media at the Public Policy Forum, a leading independent Canadian think tank. And if you follow them, which I recommend that you do, you'll see that they have a great social media presence, which I know Katie was instrumental in setting up. So in this role, she built PPF Media and the Atlantic Initiative from the ground up. She has recently co-authored reports on redefining the childcare workforce in Canada and creating a more sustainable future for journalism in Canada. She holds a degree in political science from the University of New Brunswick and a master's of applied politics from Wilfrid Laurier University. And with that, I will pass it over to Katie.
Great, thanks so much, Vanessa, and thank you all for being here, and to folks who will watch the recording when it's posted online. I'm going to just start now by quickly sharing my screen to make sure we've got that all sorted out. And now let's see if I can actually make this view full screen without losing. Do you see it full screen now, or have I lost you? Full screen, it is?
Yeah, full screen, yeah.
Perfect. Oh, but unfortunately it is going through the PowerPoint on its own. Give me 1 second here. Okay, I'm just gonna have to reshare here, apologies. Okay, there we go. And perfect. Well, thank you again so much. As Vanessa mentioned, today we'll be chatting broadly about marketing, communications, and partnerships for your social enterprise. I add partnerships in there because really foundationally to what we do in marketing and communications is build that broad network online and in person through sharing the work and the important impact that we're having. So that really does lend well to partnerships overall. So I just kind of add that in, and we'll go broadly through a number of different components. I look forward to folks sharing their perspective and experience throughout the session as well. And I will give some time for reflections as we move through the content overall. But you know, the foundational here is why do we market? Why do we communicate our social enterprises? And really, the foundation of why we do this is really to build success, because our social enterprise is really not just dependent on our services or our products, but rather actually that ability to communicate the value, to communicate the impact we're having, and to build those relationships and partnerships to help really bring all of those elements together. And so what we really see is by adopting a more holistic marketing and communications practices within your social enterprise, you're actually able to support your overall impact and your overall vision by building more sustainability within your enterprise that really pulls us all back to what we want to be doing, which is supporting our mission. I should also mention actually that the Pond-Deshpande Centre itself is a social enterprise. So we operate as a social enterprise through broadly our consulting work. So that supports our mission of spreading social entrepreneurship and social innovation in the province overall. So I'd love you to just take a moment to reflect on what your goal today for today's session is, and why you maybe decided to spend your lunch hour talking about marketing your social enterprise. And I would invite you, if folks aren't too shy, to perhaps share that goal in the chat. And just, it could just be you're curious, but anything that you might want to share, please do feel free to do that. I know, again, for me, my goal today is to hopefully impart a few strategies or a few key ideas on ways that that you all can take some practices into your social enterprise to, again, build that sustainability, build those key messages and partnerships. I'm also realizing I probably can't see the chat, can I, Vanessa? So you might have to tell me if anybody does share in there.
Yes, sounds good. Nothing yet, but we encourage you. Oh, we just got one from you, Yulia, to explore how marketing for a social enterprise is different from marketing for for-profit companies.
That's a great one.
Mm-hmm.
And we will hopefully come back to that through the sessions. Thank you, Yulia. So so goal setting for the session is important, but goal setting overall is actually how we get started when we're doing marketing communication. So what we've heard and what I've experienced personally before is, you build these grand ideas, or we believe it's important to build more marketing and communications capacity within our social enterprise. But what we forget to sometimes do is put actually goals around that. And so the way for us to be successful, and I'll kick it off here, but then we'll circle this back at the end of the presentation, is really to set goals on what it is you want to achieve. And actually, Yulia, that goes back to your question in a way, because what we're all trying to achieve with our social enterprises are to build sustainability and sustainable revenue streams to support an impact mission. And so that may look quite a bit different than if we were just trying to, just sell a product or just generate revenue. What we're all doing is actually something that has a deeper social purpose. And so we can connect our goals directly into that impact and into that social focus. So it can be, you've all heard of SMART goals, but SMART is really what we pull together as well for marketing and communications. But overall, what I want to impart is when we're starting our goal setting on how we want to show up in this space, we really start with the mission of your enterprise. What is it that you're trying to achieve? And how do you then inject that into your element of social enterprise? Again, we want to be specific and measurable, timeframes, realistic, all of those things that we know in our actual SMART goal framework. We really want to be doing that with our marketing communications as well. And we want to be reviewing and revising regularly to ensure that we're doing what works for us, and we're working smart, not necessarily SMART in the goal framework, but smart rather than harder on building what works for us. So what do we mean by marketing and communications and partnerships? Sometimes they're all kind of conflated together in a way, but marketing really is about your audience. So you're developing tools to understand who is your target audience, what are they looking for, and then how do you use tools and tactics to build for them. So when you think of marketing, really what you should be thinking a bit about is figuring out the who you are trying to actually influence through your communications, partnerships, and tactics of the like. And then again, you're thinking about what is it that you bring, right? What is that impact you're trying to have? And how is that different from others that might be showing up as well? And really what we see on a marketing side is again, that content creation, storytelling, building those brands, that all falls within marketing. And you can almost see marketing, communications, and partnerships being a funnel in a way. Marketing is actually where you start. So building that foundation of who you are, who you're trying to target, and how you're going to do that is then foundational to moving into communications and how you actually communicate, and then how that transitions into partnerships. So with that in mind, I'm actually just going to invite us all to think for a second about who our audience is and what our unique value proposition is for that audience. So again, I'd love to invite folks in the chat to maybe share that reflection on their own, or take a moment and consider on your own. One method that we use to help define our audience is, thinking about who our ideal customer is, or who our current customer is, and really just outlining what it is that they want, need, feel, what problem point are we solving for them. So a really great example, as Vanessa mentioned, we are engaging, or we have our social enterprise deep dive cohort on right now, and we did a similar exercise with them last week. And what was really interesting and important is, in 2 of our different organizations, they identified that actually one of their key audiences was folks that were looking for deals. Well, that's actually a great thing for us to know, because we can then really easily identify, what the unique value proposition is for that audience and how we're going to communicate and market to them. So this exercise, again, can be, as I say, can be thought of as who your key client is, or who your persona is. There are a number of different ways that we kind of define this. But it is, again, just really foundational to setting the stage as you move into thinking about how you're then going to engage with folks in your audience. Okay. So once we've identified who our target audience is and what our unique value proposition is to them, that's when we move over into communications. So that's really about those stories directly with your key audience. So you're crafting strong brand messages here. You have maybe key messages are sometimes used. You're really building that relationship, right? Again, if you know that your strong value proposition to a certain subsect of your customer audience is around finding great deals, well, then that's how you're going to kind of build your messaging and then build that relationship with those folks and allow for that to kind of continue to move forward. The other thing that you might be doing here in communications is being a bit aspirational. So you may have actually a target audience or a target customer that you're looking to build. And this is, again, where building some effective communication strategies around how you might craft your message into that particular group. And really, with communications, this is where rubber hits the road from marketing. It's around planning. One thing that I love to share is when I started this role about 5 months ago, one of the first goals we had was very, very simple, because as I started on the team, we had very little social media presence. So my goal was to post on social media, particularly on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, once a day for a month. It was simple. It again was time specific, but that was my communications plan. That was really, well, we had built our key objectives in that plan, but it was writing it down. We knew we were going to need content every single day for 1 month. And so doing that and planning that out meant that we were able to actually be successful, and that I wasn't kind of just saying, oh, it's Monday now, I have to think about what I want to post today because I want to try to achieve this goal. So planning is really your element of communications, turning, as I say, marketing into rubber hitting the road. And this is also where you would determine what channels rather might be the best mechanisms for you to reach those audiences that you're trying to reach. So for example, we actually know with our student audience, we should be communicating more with them through Instagram rather than LinkedIn, for example. And I can see the chat now, so I will keep peeking up there if anybody wants to share any thoughts or ideas throughout. And so again, as I said off the top, we see kind of marketing, communications, and partnerships as almost a funnel. So you've got your key brand, you've got your key audience, you know how you want to communicate to them through your value proposition. You're building a plan on how and how frequently, with what kind of brand messaging that you're sharing with them. And really what that's doing is you kind of scope it all the way down, is creating those opportunities for you to build partnerships. And this could be through identifying potential partners, excuse me, developing mutually beneficial partnerships, etc. And like really what I mean when I say partners, that could be anything, right? So that could be, one person who really loves your social enterprise, has used your service before, and is sharing that out broadly through marketing or through communication materials and through communication platforms, for example. Or it could be something much bigger where by building this strong, cohesive narrative, you then actually have maybe a funding partner who really wants to get engaged with you, or who sees the impact that you're having and takes on that great learning from what you've been sharing and says, yeah, this is an organization or this is an enterprise that I'd like to do business with, or that I would like to engage with. Obviously, within social enterprise, our goal is to be creating sustainable revenue streams, but for most, your social enterprise is supporting the work of your nonprofit. And so if organizations or funders see the work that you're doing and the impact you're having through your social enterprise, they might also be interested in working with you on the mission of your nonprofit and kind of creating those circular relationships. This is actually something that happened to us during that period where we were posting every day for a month on social media. We had an organization, based on a connection that we made on LinkedIn, reach out to us because we were doing some similar work, and they wanted to share with us the methodology that they were using. So they were actually an international nonprofit that worked in a similar space that we do on social innovation. And they thought that we might be able to build an interesting partnership. And we actually were able to move all the way forward on that after we realized we did have a lot of aligned goals. And we're now in the process of creating a partnership agreement to actually mobilize the work that we do and the work that they do and bring actually their methodology to Canada. So we would be the first organization in Canada to use the methodology that they have developed. And that was purely through posting on LinkedIn and them kind of finding us through a mutually beneficial language and message. So again, it really is about creating that rubber hitting the road. Okay, I am now going to move over into a bit of impact measurement. So as we discuss right off the top, goal setting is critically important to marketing and communications. And ensuring that we're setting measurable goals allows us to continue to evaluate and track and iterate what it is that we are doing. But I think that this is also when we talk about potentially the difference between marketing, communicating your social enterprise versus your kind of strict for-profit enterprise or venture. The difference here is, your goals may also be around sharing the impact that you're having, and it might be actually getting on the radar of, say, funding partners, or developing so many leads through social media. And these are, again, impact leads. So it's not just about that revenue generation, but building those cohesive partnerships that are going to actually help you with your personal or your organizational mission and that impact that it's generating. So really overall, you'd be measuring both your impact from some key metrics of, are you posting every day if that was your goal? Are you getting a certain number of likes or shares or retweets if those were your goals? Or it can also be have you shared X amount of impact stories? Have you had that broader kind of societal impact that you're looking for? And frankly, impact measurement is and should go beyond just measuring the number of kind of likes and follows and shares. And so that can actually be built right into your marketing and communications. But at the end of the day as well, you do want to be making these decisions that are as data driven as possible, because this is your presence out in the world. It's your presence online, it's your presence through media, in person. So you want to really be ensuring that you're doing things that make the most sense and that is really going to resonate again back to that target audience. And so how are we going to do these things? So we've got some methods and tactics and tricks and all that fun stuff here. So methods, really, again, we talk often about social media, but social media is not the only tool available to you. It is one that works quite well. And as I say, depending on where your target audience is or where your ideal audience is, you're going to look at social media very different. For lots of organizations, Facebook might still be a really great tool. For others, it's not at all. Same with Instagram, same with, TikTok. I feel like TikTok's the hot thing that people want to explore, and it might be great if your target audience lives on TikTok. The other elements, though, that go beyond social media are, of course, your website presence, and that really is how you show up. If somebody just Googles you, that's really where they're going to find you. So ensuring that your website is conducive to that brand and building that kind of marketing first step in a way. There's also earned media, and what earned media is really just any engagement with news media. So whether that's sharing your story on CBC or having an event that you might want to be covered and things like that, it's a really actually still effective tool. But again, it works really well when you're reaching the target audience you want to. Advertising is also a method. It particularly works, or particularly in the context of marketing. Folks will do paid social media advertising. There's still, depending on where you're based in local communities, you might have some really great opportunities for advertising through maybe like a community radio station or community events and things like that. That works well. And that, again, kind of leads into events overall. You can continue to both use events to your favor, whether that's creating your own or sponsoring or engaging and partnering on events to help broaden that reach. And thought leadership is one that I think is often very underutilized as a tool. But really what thought leadership is finding out or figuring out where your particular area of expertise is, whether that's your social enterprises expertise or your kind of personal expertise that intersects as the head or a deliverer of your social enterprise, and creating some content through that perspective, right? So in some ways, this presentation could be considered, thought leadership for the PDC, because it's, an area of knowledge and intersection, but is not necessarily directly related to kind of what we're doing. So that's an exciting opportunity often as well to build out. And how are you going to do all of this? So I think we've all now been on social media long enough to know that posts with photos, posts with videos, they're going to get typically more engagement and traction. So really figuring out how you're building your content creation, whether that's, again, stories that you're telling, and those could be as basic as, we delivered this thing. Let's use this. So could be as easy as saying, if we were going to, we delivered a workshop on marketing and communications, and because of that, this organization was able to develop tools and tactics to increase their reach by X%. Or this organization was able to have a successful launch of their new program because they've taken our tactics and considerations into into life. So that content creation, that storytelling paired with photography, videography, and at this point now as well, like you can do videos on your iPhone pretty easily, and really kind of pulling that all together and telling those stories and using other methods. So podcasting, for example, and audio is becoming more and more popular. So just ensuring that in your plan you have a mix of these types of elements and figuring out what works well, again, with your audience and using that evaluation and testing as well. And then those tools. So social enterprises are not necessarily organizations that have massive marketing or communications budgets. Probably if you're like us, you have virtually none. And so we need to be using tools that work for us and that are supportive, to, again, as I say, work for us to work smarter, not harder. For many social enterprises, you probably don't even have somebody focused entirely on marketing and communications. It's probably a component of somebody else's job or a mix of a few people's jobs. So really ensuring that we're taking that into consideration overall, I think, is really important. So having a strategy and a schedule for me has always proven to be actually a massive time saver. So by developing your strategy, which is again led by your mission, led by your target audience, led by your unique value proposition, and developing a schedule that works for you. And that could mean posting on social media once a week. It could mean trying to get, earned media once a quarter, or trying to put out a blog style post once a month, or a newsletter once a month. Like, it doesn't have to be a schedule doesn't have to be overwhelming. It should be adaptable to what is reasonable and realistic for your organization. Canva is a tool that many folks use nowadays, but I'll share it again just in case folks are unfamiliar. It is a free web-based platform that does have a paid version, but everything does, but it's free to basically do kind of graphic design, and we use that for everything that we do. You can kind of take a photo and put, a border around it, as simple as that, put your logo on it, or you can be developing, actually this PowerPoint, for example, I developed in Canva. And so you can be using those free tools to just enhance those graphics or those videos and create something really beautiful for literally no dollars. Hootsuite is actually a paid tool, but I know there are some similar tools that do the same thing that have free versions. Basically what it is it's a social media scheduling tool that would allow you to go in and kind of write your posts and put those all in there and schedule them for a different time or a different day. That's something that I've also found really important to our success, and it kind of gets back to that strategy and scheduling. If you spend 30 minutes on a Monday to schedule all your posts for the week, for example, then you get it out of the way and you don't have to think about it. Adobe Lightroom is another free tool that's downloadable on your phone, actually. And so it allows you, excuse me, very easily to put a photo, kind of upload a photo and adjust the photo. So if you pop your photo in and then even just like do the light balance or kind of brighten the photo, that can oftentimes just lift up your image and make it just a bit better as you're posting it again on social media or elsewhere. So it's a very easy, especially if, for example, and some of the folks we're working with are running thrift shops. If they're posting every single day, well, they don't have the ability necessarily to have professional photography there, but they can pop a photo into Lightroom, adjust the lighting settings to make it a bit brighter and a bit more professional looking, and that will get more eyeballs on it. ChatGPT. So if you've been following kind of the AI renaissance, I guess I'll call it, you'll know about ChatGPT. If not, you can Google it pretty easily. It's essentially a generative AI tool that you can ask prompts to, and it will do things for you. So I found this very useful in supporting social media content, because you could, for example, put a story into, you could say, here's an article that we wrote, or here's a blog post that we wrote that's 500 words. can you turn this into social media posts? And then ChatGPT will write your social media posts for you. So again, that's working smarter, not harder. And finally, I would just say MailChimp, which is an email tool, but any email tool is something to seriously consider. I think email marketing is something that folks are spending more and more time on these days because it's really one of the only ways you have to get direct eyeballs on your content. You know, if you're posting on social media or doing news media interviews, you know, CBC or your local radio, you actually can't guarantee that people are going to see that and engage with their content. But if you're developing a newsletter, that allows people to actually opt into your content, so you know they actually want to be there. And then you're getting, you know, when you're posting or sharing those emails, you're likely going to get a much higher engagement rate there. So that is just, again, another tool. As I say, almost all of these tools are free or have free versions. So it's not like building the strategy schedule and figuring out those tools is going to be kind of too challenging from a finance perspective. And then really finally, once we've figured all of this out, so once we know who our audience is, where they are, what they want to do or how they want to engage with us, what tools are going to work for us, you really build out your strategy, right? So the strategy, like anything, is very important, because if we're just saying, hey, we want to do better marketing and communications, well, that's great, but unless we're actually building a strategy around that, building those goals, having those schedules, we're just not going to be successful. So again, a strategy, you really want to start with your goals, where you want to be and where you want to show up. So that could look like, you know, what platforms you want to show up on, how, right? So this might be your email marketing, it might be your TikTok, more than likely kind of your Facebook, Instagram, and then how you want to show up there. So again, what messages do you want to be sharing? Do you want to be having always photographs? How is your brand going to be represented? And what does success look like for you? So these are really the key elements of your strategy that then inform your scheduling and how you show up and how you continue to iterate. So really with that, my final slide is just, you know, after this conversation, or rather wasn't a conversation, presentation, what questions are you left with, and you know, what might get in the way of your success in moving forward and continuing to build or starting to build your marketing communications presence. So folks can either reflect on that kind of quietly, or if you would like to engage.
Yes, we welcome any questions. And I think from my end, I just want to reiterate that if you're not doing any marketing or communications, or you're not sure where to start, like, I think the beauty of what Katie presented here today, and as she mentioned, this will go on our Social Enterprise New Brunswick website, so you can review it again, is like the best part is there's some ideas here for you to try. And as Katie mentioned, when she started with the Pond-Deshpande Centre, you know, part of it was making sure that we as an organization were posting every day and then learning from that. And I think that that's the biggest insight from my end, in the sense that you can't know exactly where and how people will engage. You develop a hypothesis and then you go and test it. And then from there, you'll see and you'll find what works for you. And so I think that that is one way that it's maybe similar to marketing for for-profit companies, in the sense that, you know, you have to start with a hypothesis and see what works. And then it's different, I suppose, in the messaging. I don't know if you had any specific thoughts on that, Katie.
Yeah, I think that's bang on, right? Like, you can and should always be iterating to do what's going to have the most impact for you, right? And to do what is going to best share your message and your mission and your vision for your social enterprise. For us, during that testing phase, one thing that really surprised me, because we did have quite a large following, about 3,000 followers on Twitter, we actually lost followers in the month that we posted every single day, which is very counterintuitive, right? Whereas on LinkedIn, we grew our LinkedIn presence by, something crazy like 300%. So that just shows you, did we stop entirely posting on Twitter? No, but we didn't prioritize that in the same way that we maybe would have based solely on the follower count, right? Whereas we have actually fewer followers on LinkedIn and on Facebook, but they have much better engagement, and we're seeing way more, again, partnerships and way more opportunities. So just because you've decided that you're going to do something, once you've tested it and it might not work out for you, that's fine. You don't have to stick to it. You can be continuously iterative.
Yeah, I love that. Last chance for any questions before we stop the recording. Awesome. Well, I'm going to stop the recording, and if you have any quick questions, we can stay on for a few moments. But thank you for that, Katie. That was really great. And I think that it's a question that, like I said, a lot of social enterprises have. As I mentioned, we will put the recording on our website, so you're welcome to review it. Again, we do have another session coming up in French on staffing your social enterprise on May 24th with Monsef Lacouas, which he is the executive director of BCG in Moncton. And so they operate social enterprise and have done so for a number of years. So he'll provide us some insights into staffing. And we're also going to explore social enterprise as a tool in reconciliation with Nisa Kennedy of Jedi, New Brunswick. And so it's a topic that is important in today's context. And I think that social enterprise is a tool that we can use. And she's going to help us understand both what Jedi is doing, as well as some tools that we can use in our social enterprises if we identify as non-Indigenous. So I hope that you'll join us for those. And in the meantime, you're welcome to check out all of these recordings on our website.